Hello, welcome back to our second sessions looking at diversity in the workplace. Now, as I'm sure most of you are aware, the Welsh Government are committed to a race equality action plan to be implemented by 2030. Research shows that there are benefits to businesses from this, both from an ethical and financial perspective, such as fairness, access to a greater range of skills, knowledge, experience and networks. This led to 2.3% more to have a higher cash flow than competitors. 35% of diverse companies outperform their competitors. 19% increase in revenue with a diverse management, with more than 6% of the population identifying as ethnic minorities. This means hundreds of thousands of people who are currently excluded could bring great value to a business. Now, this round of discussions will walk you through the steps you need to take to ensure your business is fair, inclusive and equal. I'm delighted to say that we are again joined by Salima Bahadur from the Ethnic Youth Support Team. Salima, this time is going to be discussing good practice in recruitment and how to use methods that are a sensitive cultural fit. So for those who were not with us previously, she'll also give you a quick outline of her background and position. So Salima.
Hi, I'm Salima Bahadur. I work at East. So East is the lead body, the Welsh Government appointed lead body for race in Wales. We have a few different strands, 5 different strands of work at East. And some of them are BME young people, BME families, we have asylum seekers, refugees we work with. And we also challenge racism within the wider community. And with the Welsh Government having the Race Equality Action Plan, I think today's topic is a really important one for businesses to consider. I mentioned in the previous session that some of you may have watched that, you know, if organisations and businesses don't get on board with trying to diversify their workforce, if they're not diverse already, then they could be left behind in the matter of years. So,
right, well, let's start with looking at businesses that have not yet started, if you like, the diversity journey. What would you say to an owner of a business which currently has a workforce consisting of white British employees, but want to start to diversify that workforce?
if you're at the very early stages, I would recommend getting together with other businesses maybe who are in the same situation. So businesses who don't know where to start really, you can get together, maybe have like an advisory group together. You can call us in from East if you want our expertise, knowledge at your group. And that's like a starting point. I think businesses have to be realistic. And if they need help, then there is absolutely no shame in seeking help or asking questions. If you don't ask, you'll never know, and things won't change for you as a business. Just remember, there's no shame in asking those questions. Yeah, so that would be the starting point, I would say, if you want to change the diversity within your business.
What difference does a diverse workforce make, if you like, to employees?
So the difference made, I think we have to be honest here. It depends on the way you're going to treat your diverse workforce. So if you have employees who are from a different racial or a different religious background and you're not treating them right, then it's not going to go very well. So I think employees or businesses really have to think, you know, we're taking people on from diverse backgrounds. Why are we doing it? Are we going to be treating them right? So if you have, say, a Muslim employee like myself, and something as simple as during the fasting month of Ramadan, especially in the longer, hotter days, if you give your employee a little bit more flexibility than usual during that month, so maybe they can start a bit later if it's easier for them, or finish a bit later, do the same amount of hours, so you're not going to miss out as a business or an employer. They'll still be giving you the same amount of hours, but it's just giving that little bit of little bit of flexibility, it makes them feel more valued, and then in turn the difference that would make to the employer is your workforce is going to be more motivated, they're going to put more effort in, they're going to want to give you all the skills, knowledge, all the experience. They're going to want to give you your best out of all that. So it can make a huge difference to diversify. You just have to treat people in the right way, because on the other hand, you know, having a diverse workforce where your employees are having to deal with microaggressions, say, on a daily basis, that's going to have the opposite effect.
Okay, good, thank you. Well, let's move on then, if we may, to businesses that do have a track record of hiring employees from racially and religiously diverse backgrounds, but however, they struggle to retain these staff. So how actually can they improve this?
To retain staff, I think you need to start off right at the beginning, really. Think about the adverts that you are putting out. Is the language inclusive? Check the wording is not too technical, unless it needs to be, unless the role is going to be really techy and they're going to need to know those words. Just have simpler adverts. This is something I don't understand about businesses sometimes in general. I've been involved in recruitment for many, many years, and I don't understand why sometimes interviews are so harsh, if you like. They're so serious when the employee would be working within your business, which is totally the opposite. So if you have a friendly work culture, friendly way of working, friendly teams, then your interviews really, if you think about it, should be the same. They shouldn't be really harsh for the interviewee. Even at that stage, the interviewee should get a feel of, this is what the business is like. This is, if I get this job, then this is how they work. So that's the starting point, is getting the adverts right. And then application forms, I really do recommend taking out all the protected characteristics for shortlisting. So not having somebody's name, their socio-economic background, their age, anything that could affect somebody's judgment when going through the application forms. Really, it is, if you think about it, skills, knowledge, experience. This is what you need to focus on. Can this person do this job? Is this person the best for the job? And it shouldn't have anything to do with any of the protected characteristics. It shouldn't affect somebody getting a job. And then interviewing. So when you're booking the interviews, think about the venue. I mean, somebody maybe like myself from a Muslim background, they wouldn't be comfortable sitting in a pub for an interview. And sometimes, depending on what kind of business people have, they do have their interviews at places that are selling alcohol. So just thinking about all these things, really, that can help a business, I think, go a far way. It's just little things, thinking about these little details that will help the business.
Yeah, Salima, you mentioned that East, of course, is there to help if someone wants to reach out. But what can East do to help businesses who want to racially diversify their workforce?
So with East, we can deliver awareness sessions. I mean, content would be same to what I've delivered in both sessions. So the first session, which was about why a business should diversify their workforce, and this session, which is more about how a business can go about diversifying. So we can deliver sessions like this. I mean, half-day sessions, that would be a half-day session or a full-day session. We can also help if you've got recruitment adverts. We can help with distributing those. So you just need to get in touch with us, and we can send those out via email to all our networks. There's a huge reach we've got at East into the minority ethnic communities and to the individuals around Wales. And it is all over Wales as well. And also we can just advise businesses on a one-to-one. So if you've got any questions, you can get in touch with maybe Business Wales and they'll put you in touch with me. Another thing I want to mention is Business Wales as well. So as a partner organisation, they are Business Wales is a safe place to go. The advisors have been trained up in equality and diversity, and they'll be able to support you as well. And I also want to mention the Business Wales Equality Pledge. So it's an equality pledge. You can sign that. Businesses can sign that. And it's like proactive steps then you're taking towards diversity. So it's things like you'll be signing up towards, I'm just going to read these. So you'll be signing up towards things like asking suppliers for a copy of their equal opportunities policy, promoting and delivering an accessible and inclusive service. So yeah, there's the Business Wales Equality Pledge as well.
Thank you, Salima. Thank you so much. And again, of course, Salima, well, she raises some great, interesting points here, particularly around blind recruitment and focusing on the skills and the experience needed for the job. There is further information around this contained within the resource pack, and that will be made available, of course, after the event. Okay, now we're going to hear from Peter Marezama. Peter runs Chef Marezama Foods and is known for creating delicious meals that cater for complex dietary needs. The company operates from a dedicated food production facility in Bridgend in South Wales. Peter is going to talk about his own experiences in the workplace and how they have impacted his employment practices.
Hello there, my name is Peter Marezama and I'm the director of the imaginatively named Chef Marezama Foods here in Bridgend. The reason why I became a chef is because I have a natural passion for food. I grew up in and around food quite a bit. My background's quite diverse, and I grew up in, well, effectively central London. So I was surrounded by Italians, I was surrounded by Indians, I was surrounded by all sorts of manner of people, which meant that I was surrounded by quite a bevy of different flavours. So my cooking, if anything, is just a reflection of my childhood. The inspiration behind my company was in setting up food which meets a wide variety of different diets for people traditionally considered as being fussy eaters. So people who have, I don't know, say a gluten intolerance or happen to observe particular eating habits as part of their religion. The good thing about the food which we produce is that everything is technically free from and tastes absolutely fantastic regardless of what's not in it. In terms of what we supply currently, we have a range of gluten-free and vegan cake mixes which come in both vanilla and chocolate flavours. They're very, very popular and were quite popular, if you remember, at the start of the lockdowns when nobody could get hold of yeast in order to actually bake anything. We also do a range of fruits, dried fruits, kids snacks with absolutely no preservatives in them. Absolutely fantastic and an absolute sellout with the kids. The biggest issue facing the culinary industry as a whole right now is recruitment. Post-COVID, you'd find that a lot of people were struck off, including myself, as a result of the pandemic. So trying to hire people to fill those positions and actually passionate about those positions is proven quite difficult for most people. The reason why I think that is mainly because the younger age bracket were the most likely to be in positions in the hospitality industry, behind the scenes in the kitchens, and they were the first to get struck off the moment everything went into lockdown. I understand obviously that's for financial reasons, but now it's more of a case of trying to make sure we can get those people back into work and effectively into roles which they can grow in. As far as what I'm personally doing to try to tackle this issue, I'm working alongside the Department of Work and Pensions. I'm making use of whatever schemes are available. In fact, my current workforce have all come via the Kickstarter programme, which was first proposed by Rishi Sunak as a result of the pandemic. Out of those, I currently have 3 people who've continued on with me, and I'm looking to expand the team further. It's quite clear that there is actually a glass ceiling within the culinary industry. In fact, if you look at the number of people, like myself for instance, who are from an ethnic minority background, we're overrepresented in terms of being behind the scenes in sort of kitchens and waiter staff and all the rest of that stuff. When you look at things like the people who become the executive chefs, people who become the owners, the directors and all the rest of it, we're very, very underrepresented. So it's very clear that there is a problem there. I think it's very important that something is done about the glass ceiling that currently exists. I'm personally doing my own little part, making my own little dent, by making sure that I employ people based on their attitude to work and how willing they are to actually see out the task, and not necessarily based on anything other than that, really. I think it's quite clear that there needs to be more inclusion in terms of the industry as a whole, in terms of who we actually take in terms of who's actually promoted, in terms of what exactly we see. Because there's a whole range of flavours which are going unnoticed, really. I think the biggest thing to allow that to happen is we need to have very open and free hiring processes when it comes to taking people on board and effectively playing to the strengths of the workforce which is available. It's quite clear that there's a lot of talent in the UK that seems to be going missed at the moment. I think open and fair hiring practices would go a long way towards actually having that talent shine, really. It's incredibly important to have an inclusive workspace because that's how you get the best out of everybody. Well, in terms of making sure that we hire people on the basis that is inclusive, at the moment we're currently sat in our current warehouse space, which we've had for the last year and a half. We're moving to a 3,000 square foot space very shortly. But in this space, what you'll find is that we've actually made it wheelchair friendly. We've abided by guidelines to make sure that there's space for people in production who may not necessarily be able to get around to be able to have the space to actually operate their jobs. So effectively, I've been hiring for who is the best to do the job and not necessarily who has any sort of physical barriers, for instance, to actually doing their job. But not every disability is something which you can actually see. So what we also tried to do is I made sure that every single member of staff here is autism aware. So I don't know if this is a widely known fact, but apparently people with autism for some reason don't get fair shake when it comes to actually applying for jobs. So it's one of the things we made sure was key, that everybody have the ability to effectively be aware of things that may not necessarily be fully present and allow us to get the best out of our staff, regardless of what they come with. So with the business growing, it's very important that we remain an inclusive and diverse employer. One of the things which we're doing is working with local government agencies, be that the local college, be that in terms of the Department of Work and Pensions, be that in terms of the job centre themselves effectively, to try and field candidates from the widest possible sphere available to us, really. Well, to make sure that we're reaching people who may be underrepresented, we make sure that all the roles are not necessarily experience-based. If anything, the forefront of what we're looking for is attitude. So effectively, we're not shooting for roles saying people must have had a prerequisite of 4 years in this, 2 years in that, because I noticed that's often something held against young people. If anything, what we're more so looking for is somebody whose willingness to, take accountability for the task, be interested in the subject matter, and at the same time understand that effectively we're a growing business and that they can grow with us too. Training is a huge part of what we do. Effectively, I'd never ask somebody to do something without making sure they had the tools to do it. And the good thing about us as an employer and the Welsh Government is that they have funding available should your staff need to be further trained. Business Wales have been very, very useful in the growing of my company. In fact, when I first got in touch with them, it was literally just me in an empty warehouse. And now I'm at the point where I'm looking forward to actually employing 12 people. The good thing about Business Wales is they grow as far as you grow. So effectively, as your needs develop, they're still available for you to call in order to find further information about the next steps you may take. I think if anything, having that sounding board has been the most useful thing to me, because sometimes as an entrepreneur it can be quite lonely and you're sort of wondering, am I nuts for even trying this? But the good thing about Business Wales is if they haven't got the answer directly for you, they'll go off and they'll research it. And effectively, you should eventually end up at a point where you feel better able to progress.
Thank you, Peter, into that interesting insight into the culinary world. Okay, on to our next guest then. So Gail Budden and Edward Morgan are from Castell Howell Foods. Gail is the head of HR and Edward is the corporate social responsibility and training manager at this successful company. Now, they're going to talk about the organisation's approach to inclusivity and diversity and give some advice on how your organisation can become more inclusive. So, Gail.
Hello, I'm Gail Budden, the head of HR at Castell Howell Foods.
And Shemai, my name's Ed Morgan. I'm the corporate social responsibility manager from Castell Howell Foods.
Croeso i'r ddau ohonoch chi. Welcome to you both, of course. Let's start by picking up the point, if you like, about inclusivity and diversity. So what is the company's approach to this?
Our inclusion and diversity strategy is a continuous process. We are currently developing a new careers website that will show our commitment to being a responsible business and a responsible employer.
We aim to achieve disability confident leader status and also the Silver Award in Armed Forces Covenant Employee Recognition Scheme this year. We will also continue to work with stakeholders such as business in the community and participate in the diversity and equal opportunities initiatives, such as their recruitment campaign, Opening Doors. We also have a colleague at Castell Howell who is a member of the Age at Work Leadership Group.
After participating in this project, we could add a new focus on the further broadening of our recruitment base by aiming to attract individuals from other minority groups into the company.
We understand that there is an opportunity to access one-to-one support from Antir Cymru to help us address this issue.
Okay, well, thanks for that, diolch. If you had to give a business advice for 3 baby steps they could take to start on this journey to becoming a more inclusive, a more accessible employer, what do you think those 3 steps would be?
Number one would be to use the support and resources of organisations that can help you to become more inclusive, like Business Wales, Antur Cymru and Business in the Community. Number two would be to consider what restrictions your recruitment processes are placing on individuals with disabilities. Sometimes just the smallest change can make the biggest difference to whether an individual applies for your vacancy or not. And number three, look at the roles within your company and consider which roles could be filled by someone with disabilities and what adjustments could be made to make that happen.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Castell Llewel. Thank you, Gail and Edward. Thank you so much. Now, to end these very informative discussions, let's welcome Donna Ali to the studio. Now, Donna set up the community interest company Be Excellence, and with the aim to raise the representation of black and ethnic people in positions of power. They're currently working with teaching assistants from the black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. So, Donna, welcome. Croeso, first of all. Tell us, how do you get started in this work?
So I started Be Excellence, which is a community interest company. Within that, we run various projects, which is all about amplifying marginalised group and increasing their social mobility. One of the projects is focusing on black and minority businesses, and that is kind of my lived experience as a business owner for the past 21 years.
And what barriers do you think these groups face then, Donna?
So including my own experience, but also intensive research by the FSB says that black and minority businesses don't have access to finances and lack of networks as well. So what we do is kind of concentrate and highlight that.
And how do you help them to address these barriers?
So we help them by being intentional about our work. So the project called The Bomb is about finding these companies, giving them visibility and amplifying them and giving them the space to share with the wider public their products and services. We do that by bringing them onto my radio show called The Bomb, which is a community radio platform. And then we give them a week then of intensive kind of advertising. And then we put them on our podcast, which is obviously there for anyone to access at any point. As well as that, we create network meetings. We have events such as our festive market, which we had to call it a festive market because we've got multiple faiths within that. So for instance, CCHA, Housing Association, asked us to produce 133 hampers for their staff. So within the hampers, we had 6 local businesses put in their products or services into the hamper. So they got some really great exposure as well as a little bit of finance as well.
Oh, that's really good to hear, Donna. Now, you mentioned BOMB, B-O-M-B, in your previous answer. Are you able to explain maybe a little bit more about what BOMB stands for and what it is exactly?
So BOMB stands for Black Owned Minority Business. It's just another anagram that we often see when we're trying to reference groups of people. But within the minority, we can use that to extend to women in business as well.
Right, okay, well, something I hear a lot about is affirmative action. I've never fully really understood the term, if you like. So can you tell us, maybe explain to us, what is affirmative action?
Affirmative action is an American term which is basically being intentional about the allocation of resources, so for a particular group or groups of people. Okay,
well, that makes a little bit more sense. Thank you for that. So how does this help the people you work with then, Donna?
It helps them by giving them visibility. They're not often seen. So FSB said there's 250,000 black or minority businesses in the UK. 180,000 are self-employed, which means that they don't scale up. They fail to scale up to become big organisations. And again, that's due to lack of networks and access to visibility. So we're just very intentional about giving them that space.
Thank you very much, Donna Ali. Thank you. Now, I'm sure you'll agree, a thought-provoking way to close these wonderful sessions on diversity in the workplace. Thank you all. Thank you all to our presenters and to all of you, of course, for your valuable time today. Okay, so there's just time for us to say we are also inviting people from the Black, Asian and minority ethnic community to share their experience of Business Wales support by taking part in our focus group research. We equally would like to speak to community members and stakeholders about their thoughts, their responses to Business Wales marketing campaigns. If you'd like to be included in this research, well, please email us at focus.group@businesswales.org.uk. So that's an email to focus.group@businesswales.org.uk. And finally, well, don't forget there's always support on hand through Business Wales. Contact details are on the screen right now, and that's all that's left for me to say is diolch yn fawr iawn, thank you so much, and goodbye.